would that go? Trick question. It would go nowhere. Because there is no y that goes with it. Right? You have to have an x and a y, so it would go nowhere. Okay. So here we're talking about caffeine in the blood. After Sam finishes drinking a cup of coffee on his way to work in the morning, the amount of caffeine present in his body over time is measured and shown below. And it's decreasing over time, which makes sense because that's what happens. Okay, so these data can be modeled by an exponential function. So we have to go set calc exponential function, which is 0. And then we want to calculate it, where t is the time elapsed in hours and c is the amount of caffeine in his blood. Write the equation of the exponential function that models the amount of caffeine in Stan's body over time around the value of a to the nearest whole number, that's no decimal places, and b to the nearest hundred. We want us to write the equation out. Now look at the equation. The equation is c equals a times b to the t. You have to use that equation, correct? You can't use y because you feel like it. So C equals A, which is 150. You can't do any more decimal places or you were wrong. No. Dora. End it. Dora. Times B, which is the nearest 100. 0.88 to the T. So that's out of 1 mark, correct? Okay. Then B, if Stan decided to drink 2 cups of coffee on his way to work in the morning, then the equation that models the amount of caffeine in Stan's body over time can be written as a new exponential function. So now he's starting with 2 cups. Compare the equation of the new function to the equation of the original function in terms of the information. So what's happening every single time with this? Yeah, so we have, what rate is it changing by? 0.88, correct? Changing by 0.88, yes? Okay, is that amount going to change, the 0.88? It's reducing by 12% each time? No, what is going to change? So which number in that is going to change? 150 is going to become a? So, we're going to get 300 bracket 0.88 to the t will be equation 2. Compare means similarities and differences. Okay? So you can say the similarities are that it's still decreasing by 12%. That b value is still 0.88. That would be the similarities, correct? That it's decreasing by 0.088 every hour. And then you'd say that the amount of caffeine in the blood at the original time was 150, now it will be 300 milligrams caffeine in the blood, right? So you have to state similarities and differences and be very thorough. Okay? You can't just say, oh, one's 300, one's 150, the other one's 0.88 for both. Done. That's going to result in a 0.5 out of 2 maximum. Okay? So we have to do similarities and differences, thorough explanation. I'll show you guys an example. For Layla, caffeine has a half-life of approximately 6 hours. If Layla ingested 250 milligrams of caffeine, the amount of caffeine in her body over time can be modeled by this exponential function. Where R is the amount of caffeine in body in milligrams, so that is what R represents, and T is in hours. So here it says, Layla no longer experiences the effect of caffeine once the amount of caffeine in the body drops to 50 milligrams. So did they give me R or did they give me T? And I know they gave me R because it's the amount of caffeine, and it's also milligrams, units gives it to me, right? So they gave me R equals 50 milligrams. Now it says algebraically determine, which means I can't do y1 and y2 in my calculator and just get an answer. Algebraically determine the amount of time to the nearest hour, so that's no decimal places, that it would take for Layla to no longer experience the effects of caffeine ingested. So we're going to get 50 equals 250, 1/2 t over 6 Now remember, and you have an open book on Thursday, remember that, listening, if you don't know the exponent, the variables in the exponent, you're going to have to convert it to a log. That's what we're learning. That's why logs and exponentials are together. And when you have a log and you don't know the base of the log, the variables in the base, or the variables beside the log, we're going to have to convert to exponential. That's why these units have to go together, because you need each of them. I can't convert it right now because I have 4 pieces of information. So I'm going to divide the 250. And remember, whenever you know initial and final, you always divide them out. It's your very first step every time. So I get 1/5 equals 1/2 t over 6. And then I don't know the exponent, so I have to convert to a log. So I'm going to get log base what? 1/2. Base makes 1 becomes base my log. What's friends doesn't say friends. What do I get beside it? 1/5. And it equals t divided by 6. How do I get rid of the division of 6? So t equals, and we type that in. Everyone needs to type it in, because what happens is people don't know their calculators. Lachlan, Dora. Everyone's typing it in? Because just because I can type it in doesn't mean you can type it in. Or just because your friend beside you can type it in doesn't mean you can type it in. Nearest hour. We should be getting what? 14 hours. You should be using the log base button if you have it. If you don't have it, remember you're going to go log 1/2 and 1/5. If you don't have the button, you're going to go like this, draw a line through it, and you're going to go log 1/2, and then take that answer and multiply it by 6. Correct? That's what gives the TI-83s. Yeah, same bits. But true, very true. All right. So here it wants the amount of blood, or the amount of time, I don't want blood, that it would take, give her blood, that it would take Layla to no longer experience the effects of caffeine ingested. So it would take 14 hours where people stop. We don't stop. We are overachievers, not underachievers in this place. So it would take 14 hours to what? Nope. Dora don't want it anymore. Nope. 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 I Doraed you once, now you get to put it up with the fish. The fish you want. Frosty stuff. Alright. It would take 14 hours for Layla to no longer experience the effects of caffeine ingested. Okay? Therefore, okay, guys. Do you see how I wrote a full sentence with all the things? If you don't, you're just giving up marks. Alright. In a poll of 82 people, Layla found that on a regular basis, 63 people consumed coffee. Now, guys, paying attention to me right now. The written response on the diploma has to include at least 2 different units. So if you have not moved from one unit to another, be suspicious that you should be, right? So we stayed in logs and exponentials, stayed in logs and exponentials, stayed in logs and exponentials. D is can't be a logs and exponentials question. It's going to have to be for another unit. That's how the written response works. So when you're like, what the heck? Now what is this? And you're like, it seems like it's set theory. Probably is. Seems like it's terms of comps. Probably is. It could be irrational, right? It could be a polynomial. They will move from one unit to the next in a question. If they don't, you're doing something wrong, because they do. They will. Okay? So here it says 63 people consumed coffee, 22 tea, 15 did not consume either. So they didn't give us the and portion, correct? Determine the number of people in Layla's poll who consume both coffee and tea. Do you see the word determine here, guys? Determine means work needs to be shown. Just give me an answer. You didn't determine it, you stated. They're very different. Determine means work shown. You just give me an answer, how many marks are you getting? Sadly, 0. You didn't determine nothing. You just stated something, which was not what it asked you to do. Okay? All right. So we're going to say 82 total. And then we do 63 consumed coffee. 22 consumed tea. 15 either. That's 100, correct? Minus 82 total gives me what? 18 who did what? So we go the number of people in Layla's poll who consumed both coffee and tea. So 18 people. So we go 18 people consumed, 18 people in Layla's poll. Guess what? I ain't the best at English. Don't know if you noticed. But I will rock a written response sentence because all it is rewriting what they have. So if you don't have a full sentence, it's because you chose to not. That's the only reason why, right? Because this isn't actually testing your English skills. It's testing your rewriting what they have skills. Okay? So here it says the number of people in Layla's poll who consume both coffee and tea on a regular basis. 18 people in Layla's poll consumed both coffee and tea and people usually stop, but I'm not going to, on a regular basis. Why am I such a stickler? So once you get full marks, right? Reminding you, the written response, there are 2 of them on your diploma. They're out of 7 marks each. That totals 14%. Listen. The written response is 25% of your test. So every written response mark is worth basically similar to 2% of your mark. So this is out of 2. Say you just gave me 18, you gave me no work. That's 0. You just gave up 4% of your mark. Just toss it aside. Bye-bye. Don't want to listen to it. So you think it's not that it matters, right? Yeah. Yes, but mathematically still has to show that you haven't got that 18. Yes. Okay? All right. For the very last one, I'm going to show you the scoring guideline just for the very last one. We don't have a ton of time. This is the scoring guideline. It shows you the scoring guideline for every single one, but we're going to put to D. NOR means no response was given. That means I can reuse that question. I can rip it off your paper and I can send it to someone else and they could give it because you didn't put God on the test. Okay? I cry if I see non-responses on my diploma. What's it called? They give me diploma results. Wow, that's hard. Okay, they give me the diploma results and they'll tell me how many of you have NR. How many of you got a 0? How many of you got a 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2 on the 2s? Or here, how many of you got an NR 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, and a 2? Okay, depending on or the 1. I only get super sad when I see NRs. You have 6 hours to complete a test that's supposed to be done in 2.5. There is no reason to have an NR. An NR means you just chose not to do it at all. You just left it blank. Put something down. If you do this, that's a 0. Not even joking. You didn't even put it this, 0. Pristine looking question with nothing on it, NR. So like not even real math gets you a 0. NR means you literally just chose not to do it. You didn't touch it. You read it, maybe. I don't even know if you read it. You did nothing. You left it pristine. Someone could redo it. Could reuse it. Not a dot. Okay? If there's a pencil dot, it's a 0. So I expect on every diploma there to be 0 students who have an NR. There's no reason to have an NR. Right? A 0 sucks. Yes, it does. But at least you attempted something. Right? NRs shouldn't even be allowed. Okay. NR, no responses provided. Pristine thing. Okay. 0. So this will tell us if it accepted the Venn diagram first determined. So 0 says, draws an incorrect Venn diagram. So you drew a Venn diagram, but it's just wrong. So you got a 0. But thank you for trying. Okay. 0.5. This is how you could get it. You get a 0.5 out of 2. For example, you start a Venn diagram and label at least the 15 correct. So the 15 on the outside of your Venn diagram is correct, but everything else sucks. 0.5. Okay? Makes sense. That's not right. You correctly state N, coffee, or tea. Okay? So you find out the coffee or tea amount in the middle. Or you find the total. You state the correct answer with no supporting work. Oh my gosh, they actually gave a 0.5 on this one. They never do. Must have been done pretty poorly. They gave 0.5 for that. All right. 1. You correctly complete 2 regions of the Venn diagram. So 2 things are correct, the rest is wrong. Or you provide at least 2 relevant and accurate calculations. So you can go the Venn diagram route, or you could have just done calculations. I didn't do a Venn diagram at all, and I still would have gotten a 2 on that one. Right? So here you provide at least 2 relevant and accurate calculations. So me adding up the 100 people, right? Or the subtracting will give you that. 1.5, you correctly determined that 18 people consume both, but supporting work lacks clarity. You don't actually show how you get 18, you just randomly have an 18 and work through some stuff. Correctly draw a Venn diagram without clearly indicating the answer. So what happens is, people will draw the Venn diagram, they'll put the 18 in there, and then they just call it a day. And they're like, Mrs. Lepp, you figure out which of these answers is actually correct. And I'm like, dude, not my job. So if I have to figure out that 18 is the answer because you drew a Venn diagram but didn't say 18 is the answer, that's 1.5. Okay? Make sense? You guys do that a lot on the test. I got to do a lot of work on the test. I was like, yeah, I got to decipher that 18 was the correct answer. Because your Venn diagram gave me no answer. You didn't circle anything in your boxes. Does that make sense? Because I don't want people doing that on the diploma. You guys do have these beautiful Venn diagrams you did on your tests, and then you wouldn't like pull the answer off, right? And I know you know the answer is 18. You found it. You put it in there. You know the answer is 18. I can't know you know it though because you didn't actually tell me the answer is 18, right? And then this one you did everything correct. Okay, which could be done in a Venn diagram or in shown work. All right. There was appreciation, depreciation ones. Now, guys, I want you to think about this. So, when anyone hands you something, how much percent of the object do you have? You have all of it. So, what percent would that be? 100%. We agree? What is 100% as a decimal? 1. So, if I say we're now going to increase it by 25%, how much percent do we have? 1.25 in a decimal, but how much percent? 125%, correct? Okay, what if I'm going to reduce it 25% from 100? How much percent do you have left? 75% as a decimal? 0.75, that's all you need for this formula. You just have to realize that when you are not increasing or decreasing, you have 100%, so you have 1 as a decimal, correct? If you're increasing, it's going to go up past 1. If you're decreasing, it's going to go below 1 by that much, correct? Because 100% is what you sit at. If you have changed, nothing. So, appreciation formula is, remember that you can be given these formulas on the diploma in the question, or they don't give you one at all. So I always memorize them as if I'm not giving you myself. Okay? So we always start off with the final amount, correct? Same thing with that caffeine, correct? We did 50 at the end, we had 250 at the beginning, yes? So it's our final equals our what amount? Remember? Initial. True. And then if it's appreciating, it's increasing. So we're going to have 1 plus the interest rate. And that interest rate's going to have to be in decimal, correct? Because 1 is 100 in a decimal. Yes? And then n is going to be the number of years. Let's write down what these are. So this is for appreciation. F equals final amount. Capital I equals initial amount. N equals number of years. What's the little I? Interest rate in what? Not percent, but in what? In rate in decimal. It has to be in decimal because we're using the number 1. We're not using 100%, correct? What's the difference going to be in the formula for depreciation or decreasing? What do you think we're going to do instead? On my side, it's the only difference. Yeah. I wrote the one like that because when I write the one like that, people are like, what's the lowercase l? I think it's a 1. It's not a lowercase l, it's a 1. Because it stands for 100, correct? So the formula really isn't that hard to do if you understand what you're doing. You start off with a final amount, it equals an initial amount, you figure out what we're going up by or what we're reducing by, and then to the end. So, let's look at number 1. The initial, and I'm going to write it in here, but I would prefer you guys to try and do it on paper or something if you, because it's just going to be real squishy. Up to you. So the initial price of the car is $30,000. Okay? The value of the car depreciates by 20%. I'm going to do this below after. If the car is new in 2005, how much is it worth in 2010? So I'll write down what the things are here, but we're going to do the math below. What did they give me? They gave me initial amount. Yeah, they gave me I is what? 0.20. N is what? 5. And they're making me find the final. Correct? So we write that up here and then we'll do the math below because I don't remember. Remember, if you don't write notes, Thursday will be fun. Okay. And if you call me over and you're like, Mrs. Lepp, what was the formula? I'm just going to walk away. Because should you be asking me what it is? No. Twofold. 1, it's a test. 2, I'm giving you notes for this one. Oh boy. Right? It'd be so sad, wouldn't it? Okay. So we have, for number 1A, we have F equals 30,000. Bracket 1 what? Plus or minus? Minus, depreciating, to the 5. And we could just go 0.8. Now a lot of people's eyes on a test, you guys will tell me that this is depreciating by 80%. It's not depreciating by 80%. It's how far away it is from 1, right? Because 100% is what you initially start at. It's 20% below 1, so it's 0.2, right? If it was 1.2, it would be 20% above 1, and it would be appreciating. Now, some people want to try and convert this. Why are we converting it? Just type it into our calculator. Should our value be lower than 30,000 or higher? What do you think? Why? It's depreciating. It's at 80% every year of the previous year's value, right? So in the first year it'd be 80% of 30,000, and the next year it'd be 80% of whatever the heck that was, right? So we go 30,000. Everyone's typing it in because just because I can type it in doesn't mean you can. Doesn't mean the person beside you can. We're doing this for ourselves. The car is worth $9,830.40 in 2000. Yeah? That one's nice. They don't often ask for the final amount. They often ask for the number of years. I've told you this before because that makes you have to convert it, right? Makes you do more algebraic math. Okay, let's look at B. B says, how long will it take to the nearest tenth of a year? So now they're asking us for time. Time is going to be that little n variable we don't know. It's going to be an exponent. We're going to convert to the log. It's more so where they often hit us because the other one isn't as much, but they do the other one too. How long will it take to the nearest tenth of a year? That's one decimal place. The 10 is 1 0. For the car to be worth half its original value. So I know that they're making me look for n, so it's the only one that can be missing. Correct? You can only have one unknown if you're trying to solve. My initial is 30,000. What's my final? Half of that.
Your initial will be 30,000.
Yeah.
Would it be 15,000? No,
You're close. What's the final?
15,000.
Yeah, exactly. And then my interest rate is 0.2, and I'm going to subtract. And I know I'm going to subtract because if I'm decreasing, I'm going from 30,000 to 15,000, that value in that bracket needs to be less than 100%, correct? So it's going to be 0.8 again. So if we go to B, B is going to be 15,000. I don't know why it's sign right there. Oh, check that. It's going to be 15,000 equals 30,000. 1 minus 0.20 hasn't changed to the end. And what did I tell you? Every time you're given the initial and the final, what do? First step. Divide it over, right? Divide it over. So I get 1/2 equals 0.80 to the end. How do I solve when I don't know the exponent algebraically? Where's the log? So I get log base what? Base my exponent. 0.80. And then what goes beside? 1/2. 4.5 equals 10. Everyone's typing it in. Here's 10th of the year. So here, it doesn't say what year, it says how long will it take, right? If it said what year, you'd actually have to like add it to 2005, but no. So, it will take 8.1 years, 3.1 years, for the car to be worth half of its original value. try 2, and 3, keeping in mind that it says increasing. What happens when you increase? Going less. It's going to be 1 plus. Yeah. In 2002, the population of the city was 160,000 and it was increasing at a rate of 4.5%. Often it'll say per annum. Per annum is a fancy way of saying per year. Don't overthink it. And it's increasing. And the population, determine the population in 2005. So we go 2005 minus 2002, n is 3. The initial is 160,000. And then the little interest rate, you take that 4.5 and divide it by 100, you get 0.045. So our final equals 160,000, bracket 1 plus 0.045 to the 3. Our number should be bigger than 160,000. What do we get? Did anyone type it in? Did you get? Okay. Then, if the population continues to grow at this rate, determine the number of years to the nearest year for the population to double. So now we're going to have 320,000 equals 160,000, bracket 1.045 to the n. I don't know n, so I'm going to have to convert to a log after I divide my initial and final, because that's the very first step we always do. So I get 2 equals 1.045 to the n. Then I get log base 1.045. What's friends? Doesn't say friends. 2 equals n. And what do we get n to equal? 60. Did it? What was the actual? Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay, 3 says the population of the city was 250,000 on January 1st, 2000. Now you have to read because it could be the final amount, right? We just have to keep reading. So, city 250,000 on January 1st, 2000, 310 on January 1st, 2008. So that's good because they're both on January 1st, right? It would make a difference if it's like July. Now, the initial is 250,000. The final is 310,000. Exponential growth. The average annual growth rate to the nearest 10. They don't know. And n equals 8. So we get 310,000 equals 250,000. Bracket 1 plus I to the 8. Now, if we know our final and we know our initial, that we're going to divide them first off. Can we just like terminate a decimal where we feel like it, like round early, or are we allowed to do that? When are we allowed to round? In the very final last step. If you're rounding before that, we got problems. So this one comes out as 31/25, or 1.24, and it stops. Can I use that then instead of the fraction if it stops? If it terminates? Yes. So I can use 1.24 because it actually stops. If it was 1.24987377456, can I just cut it off? No, then I have to use the fraction. 1 plus I. Now some people try and convert this to log. You don't have to convert it to a log because the exponent is 8, right? It's only when we don't know the exponent. So we're going to take the 8th root. And how we take the 8th root is we go 8 math number 5. 8 math number 5, 1.24, and I get this decimal. And then I'm going to have to get I by itself, so I'm going to subtract 1 from that decimal. So little I equals 0.027253692. And they want it to the nearest tenth of a percent. That's by 100. and I get 2.7%, and then I gotta write a sentence. So it says the average annual growth rate of the population of the city, 2.7%. Okay? Tomorrow we're doing compound interest and doubling, tripling half-life. Remember, and then we're gonna look at graphs too, so a ton of that. On Wednesday, you have that cumulative quiz. It's gonna be 9 questions. 9. Thursday's the test.